Welcome back to Season 10, Episode 2 of the Michigan State Wealth Management Association podcast. Today we have Mike Benson, Managing Director of Stout Investment Banking. Listen in as he covers his career journey and advice for students going into finance. I'm your host, Garrett Disrath. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the Michigan State WMA podcast. I'm here with Michael Benson, and then I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sounds good. My name is Mike Benson. I'm a managing director in the investment banking group at Stout. I've been with Stout for a little more than 27 years. Before that, I was with First of Michigan, which is another regional investment bank, and then NBD out of college. My entire career has been focused on middle market mergers and acquisitions. I oversee the plastics industry practice today, so it's basically a sub-vertical of industrials within investment banking, and then within that is plastics and packaging. So I've really focused on that industry for the last probably 20 years, working with founder-owned businesses, privately owned businesses, private equity-owned businesses, as well as a large corporate doing divestitures. And it's really a pretty global practice. We do a lot of cross-border international M&A. Probably half of my deals have some cross-border aspect to it. In terms of the firm that I'm at, so Stout is about a 1,200 person global investment bank and financial advisory firm. We've got a number of offices across the country. We've got 3 offices in Asia and 4 in Europe. And I actually, in addition to being a plastics industrials investment banker, I also oversee our international offices. So we've got 3 offices in Asia and 4 in Europe. In Asia, we're Hong Kong, Singapore, and Shanghai. And then in Europe, we're in London, Lausanne, Switzerland, Milan, and Berlin. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, Garrett.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very impressive. I just want to say thank you for taking your time and coming on the podcast here today. And
Sure.
my first question to get into it was, what drew you into investment banking? And then what keeps you motivated throughout your career to keep pushing forward?
So I went to Western Michigan for undergrad. I really didn't know a lot about investment banking. A college roommate of mine, first roommate I had, he was going into investment banking. I didn't really know what it meant. Frankly, I did want to go into business. So I took a couple classes in corporate finance, which is really the financing side and the public offering side of M&A or investment banking. I like that a lot. Took a couple classes in which was essentially mergers and acquisitions or investment banking, and then a couple of classes in corporate strategy, which I really liked. So that's kind of what got me into it. I didn't really know what it meant, frankly, until I learned more about it when I went to my first job out of college was NBD Bank, which is now grown up into JP Morgan Chase. Learned about it then, and then was able to break into the investment banking industry at First of Michigan. What keeps me interested is probably one of the things I like the most about it, and that's just that every deal and every situation is different. Even though I've done more than 100 deals, mergers and acquisitions within plastics, every company's situation is different. Every company itself, the dynamics, what makes it valuable, what makes it unique. All the owners are very unique. Management team. So every situation is totally new. And frankly, every day is new. It's very rare that I'm doing the same thing 2 days in a row. There's always a different part of the deal, and I'm typically running 3 or 4 deals at the same time. So there's just always something new. But I think just getting to know the management teams and frankly getting to know the owners, I love that part of it. I've become very good friends with a lot of the former owners. Garrett, you've even met some of them at tailgating and things like that. So that's what I like about it. Getting to know the people, getting to know the situations, and really solving problems and adding value.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have a favorite deal that's kind of stuck out to you within your history?
There are a couple deals. The one deal that I'm referring to, it's a plastics company. We sold it for the founder, who I've become very good friends with and whom you met. And we sold it. He rolled over some equity. We sold it to a private equity firm. 5 years later, the private equity firm hired us again to sell it. And then someday in the future, we'll do it again. So that's probably that deal will have been done 3 times. I just closed a deal recently, which was a great deal. It's a plastics company. They make consumable packaging that goes into really the automated part of the diagnostics within the medical industry. So it's a blow molding product. founder-owned business. He had some partners on board. It was just a lot of fun because we really had known them for about 3 years. And so we really helped guide them through, how do they drive additional value in the business? How do they position it properly? And then it was really about watching the timing of the market and watching the timing of the industry and watching the timing of his company to really determine when was the right time to start a transaction process. And that just closed about 2 weeks ago. So I don't know that I've got an all-time favorite, but those two are ones that I really enjoyed a lot. And the management teams were great to work with the owners, and they treated my team really well. It was just a lot of fun to work on.
Absolutely. So is that a big part of your job is working around the different market and political climate at the time?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's really what we always talk about, like in that situation, for example, and really all of our clients, unless they call and say, we want to sell now, we want to spin this division off now, they've already decided. But generally, it's we get to know them a couple years in advance, and we're working with them to kind of drive additional value in the business, position it properly. And then it's about the analogy I typically use is having the most stars aligned as possible. And it's a top-down approach. So you think about you want the corporate economy doing well, you want the regional economy doing well, you want the end markets that they serve doing well. A lot of times in plastics, they're making parts for somebody else. And a lot of companies, a lot of manufacturing, they live and die by how their end market is doing. Automotive, for example, it's very cyclical. Medical even can be, better times, worse times. So you're watching how the end market that they're serving performs. And then you get to the company level. How's the company performing? What is their out term, what's the near term, long term outlook like? Um, and it's really, like I said, getting those stars to be aligned and then working with a client towards, timing of when is the right time to go.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then kind of on a different note here, a lot of our listeners are active in wealth management. Do you have any skills just for finance in general that you would think would help a student get off to a head start in his career?
From an investment banking perspective or in
Oh,
terms
just
of wealth management,
finance in general. Yeah.
I think the main thing is just really learning the core of the core skill set. So within investment banking, the core skill set is going to be based on accounting, and then that's going
Hmm.
to be really understanding and because the main skill set for investment banking is going to be modeling. It's going to be financial modeling. What that means is that's basically taking the history of the business, understanding what drives the history of the movement between the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow. And then modeling really means just basically predicting the future. So and that's really what drives the main basis behind, and this is where it intertwines with wealth management is determining the value of a business. And the true essence of the value of business is driven by the free cash flow that that company generates, right? At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So you need to analyze the free cash flow that business generates. You need to predict it into the future. And if you're running a discount cash flow analysis, you're bringing that back to today and you're discounting it. Same thing if you're doing a leverage buyout analysis. You're layering the balance sheet with debt and equity. You're driving it out into the future and you're determining what that return is going to be. And that is what drives value. So those two things intersect. If you're a wealth manager, you're guiding your clients in terms of, a lot of it is helping to pick stocks, helping to drive, what's a good investment. A lot of times that's driven around free cash flow. So I think it's just getting to that ultimate core skill set in what it is you want to do. If it's wealth management, it's probably more about learning the types of investments, learning about different strategies, learning about, mutual funds versus, different types of investments. And then there is crossover because within investment banking, we're having to take a lot of the same exams that you as a wealth manager will take. So they've separated a little bit over the years, but in the very beginning, when I started in the industry, I took the same exact exams that you as a wealth manager would take. They've separated a little bit because there were so many things in investment banking that didn't really apply to us and vice versa. So they've kind of separated, but there are a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people talk about the SIE, the Series 6, the Series 7. And then
Yep.
another question I have here is another relation that I've kind of made between investment banking and wealth management would be client behavior and how that really shapes the portfolio for one and the deal for the other. How have you experienced clients with like different behaviors?
Well, they blend together. So a lot of my clients are founders of businesses. A lot of times they've put the company I just referenced, actually two of those deals, both those deals, they really kept all their chips on the table in the business. They didn't really take a lot of cash flow out. And then the day they sold their business, they generated a lot of very liquid wealth. And so in those situations, I was able to refer in both situations some wealth managers to come in. So it's the same thing with me. When I get to know a client, I really understand what do they want? What do they want to accomplish, right? What's most important to them? Is it highest value for the business? Is it finding a buyer that can help them drive additional value in the business going forward? Do they want one situation was the company really needed international access. So it was an international buyer because the international buyer didn't have any access to the US and my client didn't have any access internationally. So it was an international buyer made the most sense. But I needed to learn that in the beginning to really understand, what is it they're looking for. And same thing for a wealth manager. What's important to them? What are their goals? What are their objectives? What's their timeline? What's their time frame? What's their family situation? What's really, is leaving a legacy? Is that the most important? Or is it getting early retirement? Or is it, you know, frankly buying a bunch of toys? So same thing. Investment bankers job one in the beginning is what's important to that client, what are their goals and objectives. Same thing for wealth management.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like the way you stated that. That's very nice. And then one final question here, just at the end, between business or life in general, what's one piece of advice that you've learned that you would hand down to a kid coming out of college?
Well, find something that you're passionate about. Find something that interests you. Don't force yourself into something because your dad told you to, or somebody told you to, or you got a buddy. Find what you're passionate about. You'll figure it out when you find it, and you'll probably know it. You'll know it instantly, or you know it pretty quickly. And just be the best at what you can be, and generate your personal brand. I think what's really important in wealth management and investment banking is everything that you do. Yes, you work for a firm, and you need to be a team player. I get that. But you are from the very beginning, you're building your personal brand as an individual, as that professional. And people will remember that. I know people that I worked with 20 years ago that see me at a conference and they're like, hey, you're great. I loved working with you 20 years ago. And a lot of times that's where we'll get referrals from. That's 80% of my business is from former clients that they have a friend that says, hey, I'm looking for an investment banker, and they refer me in. Same thing in wealth management. That's where the vast majority of those individuals, it's all references, it's all referrals.
Absolutely.
So I guess
Thank
the
you.
answer is build your personal brand.
Yep. Thank you. That's great advice. I appreciate it. Well, Mike, that was the last question I had here today. So I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know all of our listeners will appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The WMA podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSU WMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSU WMA or Spartan Journal podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.